I'm Michael Drives, and this is the 2024 Kia EV9 Land long-range all-wheel drive in Ivory Silver Matte. The EV9 starts around $56,000. This model is the Land long-range all-wheel drive, and that ticks the clock at about $69,000. And with the added options and accessories this one has, what you're looking at here, including destination, is a smidge over $74,000. What makes this car unique is it's really the first mainstream three-row electric SUV. Now you do have like the Rivian R1S, but that's a luxury SUV, and the Volvo EX90, that's not even available at dealerships right now. So this is truly kind of your only choice. I mean, yes, you may be thinking also, there's a Tesla Model Y with 3 rows available, but that back seat is really small and pretty cramped. So this is truly your only option. But just because it's your only option, does that mean it's worth picking? Stay tuned and you'll find out. Now this long-range all-wheel drive model you're looking at here in the Land trim, that's good for 280 miles. But I can tell you, in the city, you're actually going to do a lot better because I have about 75% battery left on the car right now, and I'm still at around 280 miles of range, which is pretty phenomenal. Now, if you're thinking of other three-row SUVs that Kia sells, well, you're thinking of the Telluride. And the Telluride gets an average of about 20 miles to the gallon combined EPA, where the EV9 gets 83 miles per gallon combined. So think about being able to fuel your car for a quarter of the price. That's essentially what you're looking at here with the EV9. It's going to get 4 times the fuel economy, or energy economy, will you, of a Kia Telluride. As far as dimensions, it's almost exactly the same in every respect to the Telluride, just a little bit under an inch longer, and the interior dimensions and the cargo dimensions are almost exactly the same. Now with a 3-row SUV, you're probably thinking, well, is it a good road trip car because you want to fill the car with the family or friends and take it on a road trip? Well, the good news is it has an 800-volt architecture, and what that means at the end of the day is that you're going to be able to charge the car from 10 to 80% in about 24 minutes on a level 3 350 kilowatt charger. Now it's going to be a little slower if you don't end up at a 350 kilowatt charger, say you're only at a 250 or 150, but it has the capability to fast charge super fast. And if you're going to level 2 charge, that's going to take about a smidge over 8 hours from 10 to 100%. Keep in mind, Kia Telluride, 20 miles per gallon, Kia EV9, 83 miles per gallon. So it's really the ideal vehicle to be running errands in the city, even in the larger suburbs. I mean, 280 miles is nothing to blink an eye at. And down at the starting trims for the rear-wheel drive models, those will actually tick in at over 300 miles of range EPA. So you're going to do slightly less than that on the highway, and you're going to do probably a lot more than that in city driving. As far as trims for the EV9, starting off at the bottom with the rear-wheel drive, you've got the Light, and then you've got Light long range, and then you have Wind, and then you have Land, which you see here, and then the top of the line, the GT line, literally, it's called the GT line, is the sort of performance top level trim. The EV9 Land is the second to top trim, and that's what we have here, and that's what we're going to be exploring today. As far as options go on this 2024 EV9 Land, we've got a matte paint for about $995, and then we have carpeted floor mats and a carpeted cargo mat. And one more important option that this car has is a towing package, and that'll actually allow you to tow up to 5,000 pounds depending on which trim configuration that you have, between 3,500 and 5,000 pounds, which is pretty significant. As far as the design of the EV9, it was built as an electric vehicle from the ground up. So there's no fake grille in the front. There's just the sort of updated version of the Kia Tiger face you can kind of see in here. And one of the things, because this is the Land trim, you've got these cube LED headlights on both sides, which is very nice. That sets it up slightly a bit apart above the Wind and the Light versions of the EV9. And then one of the things you don't see in the front here, because this has the metallic paint, is there's sort of a new Kia light signature in the Land and the GT line that has some dot pixel matrix here, and you can reconfigure that when you unlock the car, how it lights up and what pattern you can customize between few patterns. It's not on this car because choosing the metallic paint eliminates that feature. It's a free delete of something that you would normally get. Again, you've got a clean front end here and the modern new Kia logo plopped right on top. And you may be wondering, well, is there a frunk under this hood? Let's take a look and see. Now I've gone ahead and hit the frunk release in the front of the car, and that just sort of electronically unlocks it. And I don't have to reach for any other latch here. I can just lift this up. It's already done the releasing for me. And there is a frunk in the front. Now you can't fill it with liquids because there's no plug at the bottom, and there's some electronic components in here. So you're not gonna put some ice in here and some sparkling water or whatever on your camping trip, but there is some small room in here for some storage, and there's even a little release in here in case you have someone that weighs about 5 pounds and they get trapped in here and they somehow can fit. Thanks to federal regulations, there's a safety release in there. As far as maintenance you're gonna do, because it's an electric vehicle, you can fill your windshield washer fluid right here. There is a little patch here where you can pop this little tab open and refill some coolant there. And you can replace your interior cabin air filter right behind this little panel, but otherwise you just have a nice clean. It is nice that it is sealed, so it's not gonna fill with dust and dirt and leaves, hopefully. You'll be able to store some things up here, like maybe the level 1 charging cable. Other than that, we're just gonna give this a close and let's take a look at the side of the car. Now I'm gonna approach the EV9 from a distance, so you're gonna see that it actually has flush mounted door handles. And when I approach the EV9, not only are the door handles going to pop out, but the mirrors are going to unfold as well. And now I can grab these very large handles. So you'll see that this land trim has 20-inch wheels and these really cool kind of 3-spoke design, or there's just a giant triangle in the middle. I think that's really cool. And then the GT line has these like very unique 4-spoke wheels, which are very cool. And then the lower trims are gonna have 19-inch wheels with a different wheel design. They're all kind of silver and black, and they fit nicely with the design of the car. Every time Kia comes out with a new car or a new generation of an existing model that they have, the design is very unique and it follows a similar design language, but it's not just a small, medium, large version of the cars that they already make. There's 2 components to this that I kind of think in my head. One, everyone's gonna know you have the very latest design of the whatever model it is of Kia that you have. The negative or the drawback is that it's going to look very dated when the next EV9 comes out. So is that a problem? I don't really know. That's personal preference. It's up to you. I think this is a really handsome design because it is large and bold without being aggressive and sort of evil and menacing looking, because I don't think you really need that. I think the design language is very clean with this car. And even though it is a large 3-row SUV, it doesn't feel enormous. There's some belt line, or it's not a belt line's down here. There's silver up here, which makes it have a very sleek sort of greenhouse coming all the way to the back. And then it's more sort of a rugged design on top. You've got roof rails, and you do have 2 moonroofs on top. They're separate. The front one opens, which of course I love, but there's not a all glass roof, and that's actually for durability, so you can physically stack things and put roof racks and whatnot on top without worry about damaging that glass. So it is still a rugged vehicle. So as we're gonna come back from these 20-inch wheel designs along the side, again, a really nice clean design. And then coming back to the tail, I'm gonna show you the hatch area. So come around to the back of the car. Welcome to the back of the EV9. As you can see, there's a very sort of clean design, and what you'll notice, like, I'm only 5'9", and this car is very kind of low and pinched in the back, which is nice. It doesn't feel just this enormous brick of a machine. It's actually sleek, and I really like that design. And hidden under here, you can't really see it probably from your angle, but there is a rear wiper that will pop down and wipe sort of at that angle. So you've got a rear wiper and washer for the Kia EV9 when you're in the city. Another feature of the back, of course, this model has, and I think all EV9s have LEDs all the way around on the back. So you'll have nice signature lighting that mirrors what's in the front. A nice EV9 badging down here. And then because this has the optional towing package, you'll see a tow hook here and a connector for your lighting on your whatever you're towing. I'm going to release the back here, and we've got a power lift gate, and you can actually configure this for 2 different speeds. This is the sort of fast speed, and then there's a normal speed. I don't know how slow normal is because that seemed pretty normal to me. Coming into the back here, you've got this neat little backpack that says Kia on it, and that velcros down to keep it from sliding around. And what's actually in here, and you can put this anywhere in the car really, or even up in the front, is the level 1 charging cable, and then your V2L adapter is in here as well. And that V2L adapter will plug into the charging port, which is just around the corner here. And if we open this little guy up, it just looks like a charger that you would plug into the car, but there's actually a wall outlet on the back, or it's not really a wall, but there's an outlet so you can plug in whatever 110 volt thing that you have. So where this comes in super handy, people talk about, oh, camping, this and that all the time. Yes, you may be camping and want to plug in your DJ set. I think that's a very rare need. However, if the power goes out, which seems to happen a lot lately to people all over the country, you can actually bring an extension cord out to your garage from your refrigerator, plug that in, and power the fridge for days if you need to. You can charge all your devices with the car. Not only is this V2L adapter very powerful and plugs into the power port on the side, or the charge port, and here you have a 125 volt 15 amp outlet, and that V2L outlet is vehicle to load, of course, just like this adapter. You have the opportunity to plug something in without this sticking out the side of your car. And I'm going to put this back in here, and we'll explore the rest of the back of the car. Okay, now that I've zipped that back up, you've got your outlet here, and then you have 2 releases. Now these seat releases actually fold the 2nd row seats down. If you need to fold the 3rd row seats down, you're just going to grab this little strap here, give it a pull, it'll drop the headrest automatically, and then you're just going to push that down. If I want to do that for both sides, I can do that, and then you've got storage. And then if I release one of the seats, say I want to release that right seat, I'm going to push the button, that's just going to drop flat. You don't have to go around the side of the car, which is really nice. And these, although they're manual for the 3rd row, they're really easy to just flip down. And if I want to bring them back up, I just lean in, grab that strap again, and I can lock it in there, flip the headrest up, and I'm back to where I was in the beginning. Coming over here to the side, on this side, there is a 12 volt sort of cigarette outlet style accessory outlet, I think as we're calling them these days. And then there's a button here to stop or open the hatch if you're on the inside. Let's close this up and take a look at the inside. Welcome to the interior of the EV9. Now you'll notice that this is a very gray interior. It's not the only option, but of course I shuddered a little bit when I'm like, oh, there's a really dark interior, but it is actually full of different shades of gray, not quite 50, maybe 50 shades of gray. Down in here, you've got sort of a cloth, and you've got a cloth inset piece here. And then you have different materials. They're all really good quality materials. This is padded, this is padded. Everything that you touch, it has a nice padding to it. Not really the glove box, but here, all these surfaces are very nicely done, and it's not the only interior option as far as colors that you can get. But even on the back of the seat rests, you'll see that there is a black sort of upper part here and black headrests with these really nice mesh headrests, and they're extremely comfortable, almost like an ergonomic office chair. And then down in here you have these nicely ribbed, heated and ventilated seats, which have that sort of gray down in the lower part. Oops, giving myself a little ride. And then the black on the upper part. Now, if you take a look at the dash, you've got 2 12.3 inch screens and a smaller HVAC screen sort of in the middle. I'll tell you why that's a little bit of a problem in a bit. Down here in the center console, you've got your sort of park distance controller or your parking controllers. You can hit this button and get a 360-degree view of the car, which is super nice in this land trim, where you can see exactly where the parking lines is. You have guidelines if you're backing up. I think that's a really great feature. I wish we're on every car. I wish the government would mandate that on every car. Yes, I'm calling for government regulation. It's not really regulation. It just helps you park and have a sense of where the car is, especially when it's a car of this size. Coming down here again, you've got this weird little circle. It's actually a fingerprint sensor. So if you set your fingerprint to your profile and sort of save it in there, it will allow you to sort of lock and unlock the valet mode. So if you're pulling up to a country club, you can unlock or lock the car into valet mode, and then features are restricted for that valet driver, and then you can unlock it with your fingerprint. It's just a way to identify you and sort of get into some deeper settings. Anyhow, let's take a look at this dash design. You do have a nice bit of physical buttons here down here for the HVAC, and then you have, instead of a volume knob, you have this sort of volume roller wheel. I don't know if I like it that much when you could just simply have a nice knob to turn. If you hit a bump, you're going to go up and down with the volume. You push this to turn it off. It's better than an up down in the digital screen, so I will take that. I think as a driver, you're always going to use the volume roller where it does work, because your hand rests here on the steering wheel more often. Another thing to note on this dash design is that there are these sort of haptic, and they are hidden if the power's off, but when you turn the power on, you'll see home, map, search, media, and setup here. If you're driving and you need to adjust something on the screen, you're most likely going to rest your thumb there, and I kept resting my thumb there to kind of orient my hand, so every time, you know, the car would bounce, I would be in the same place. Well, I kept shifting the infotainment system into one of the modes of wherever my thumb or palm was resting. So I really don't like that there, because with such a big screen, that's, unless you're just kind of like stab in the dark, that's where you're going to rest your hand. So it doesn't really work in execution as well as I think it could. Another really unique design to the EV9 is the sort of control stalk here, because it has the power button in it as well. So you turn the car on and off with this button on the control stalk, but it's the forward, reverse, neutral. So you've got DN and R, drive, neutral, and reverse, and you kind of rock the outer part of it forward or backward. And to put it in park, you just press the end of it. That's unique, but it's really hard to see depending on where the steering wheel is, where that on-off button is. So you'll get used to it quickly by feel. I just wish it were in a more obvious area. You'll notice above me there is a normal sort of traditional moonroof, and there is a fixed glass moonroof in the back, which I love on this land trim. You can slide this back with one touch and fully open it, or you can tilt it up from the closed position by just pushing up on the button, which is very nice for a little bit of ventilation and pull out a little bit of the stale air if you're driving around somewhere. There is a automatic, so I'll close that. There's an automatic shade for the back of the car, so you can control that from up here. And then the front has a manual shade, so you're just going to reach up and close that there. Under here, you have wireless charging for your phone. You've got Qi charging, and then you can lift this sort of storage bin up here, and there's a little area here to add things, and there's a really big tray down below where you can put items, and it'll keep them from shifting all over the place, like if it's someone's purse or bag or something. Nice tray to set it in there, and it won't go flying when you're rounding the corners. Up here, you've got a rear view mirror, but in this trim, it's also an electronic rear view mirror. So if you pile things high in the back of your car for a road trip and you can't see out that rear window, you're going to be able to see, here we have a view of the lovely view of the trees behind us, but you're going to see from the camera in the back of the car exactly what is behind you at all times. And this is kind of nice because it gives a wider angle view of what is actually back there. And you can go into the settings here and you can kind of adjust this in the brightness, but you can adjust the view up and down if you need to, and also, you know, as well as the brightness. And of course it has home link up here in the mirror too to control your home garage door or gate or whatever you need. Let's take a look at the steering wheel, and I'm going to show you something that's a little bit annoying. But before I do that, one more thing. The EV9 has the seat heating and cooling switches on the door panels, and this goes the same for the driver's door panel. I was thinking I would have to dig through layers of infotainment here. I don't have to do that. I can easily control the seat cooling and heating functions just with switches on the door, and having those physical switches is so nice. Down here you've got USB-C charging ports. There's 2 of them, and you can turn the one of them, you can connect your phone and it'll either charge or hit the button and it'll be able to play music off of your phone. It'll actually connect it to the infotainment system. Again, this huge screen, when it's in Apple CarPlay, which I can't show you right now because I'm using my phone to record this, full screen Apple CarPlay, which is really nice. Now, that steering wheel, I promised you. Here we go. Now I want to show you two things from a sort of point of view. You've got a lot of your typical buttons and really nice here to control, but when you look at the screens, you've got your gauge cluster and then you have your infotainment screen over here, but the HVAC controls and that sort of in-between panel is completely blocked by the steering wheel. So you have to kind of lean your head and look around there, and then you can see that panel because it actually is a touch screen, but you cannot see it from sort of the driver's position. Sure, you could adjust the steering wheel, but you want to do that for comfort, and you can't really move it out of the way. Even if I bring it backward or forward or up or down, it is still exactly in the way of that screen, which you want to use. So you just have to crane your neck around the side. Another issue, now in this view, I can kind of see here's the control stalk where I can shift the gears and sort of move it into, if I had my foot on the brake, which I can do now, I can put it into drive, I can put it into reverse, and I can push the button on the edge to put it into park, but I can't see that on-off button just by sitting here. So if I'm new to the car, I'm gonna have to look all around for that on-off button. It's actually down there. But if I'm looking at the gauge cluster, I can't see that, and I just have to know by touch where that is. Again, I talked about that accidentally hitting these buttons here are those home buttons and map and search. Well, that's all great, but if I'm going to sort of hit something up here, well, now I'm hitting these haptic buttons and I'm trying to search for something. Well, I didn't intend for that to happen, and I just want to go back to the home screen. I need to do that and continue with what I was actually trying to do in the first place. And maybe that's loading weather information or whatever I'm trying to do. That's going to take a while, and I feel like this is going to fail because I tried this last night and it did. For some reason, there's some issue with it in this car. Really great battery information here and different displays. You can look at different charts and see your energy use displayed in different ways, as well as setting things for charging, departure, HVAC controls, and V2L and whatnot. Coming back here, this screen is not really customizable in the traditional sense. I'm going to zoom in there. You pretty much always have your miles per hour and then your charge range. Again, I'm at 74%. This car is EPA rated at 280 miles, and I'm showing 257 because I've been doing city driving. Let's take a look. Oh, I just want to show you one more thing before we take a look. There's that rear view mirror. If I go to the traditional glass sort of reflection, that's what I see, and I can see the people behind me. But again, if that cargo's loaded up, you can just use the rear camera view and do it that way. Let's take a look at the second row and see what we have back in there. One last thing before we go to that second row, one trick feature that this car has in the Land trim and of course the GT line trim is there's a little button here that if, say, you're charging somewhere or you just need to pull over to the road and take a nap, you can just hold down this button. It's going to slide the bottom of the seat forward, tilt the back, and then put out this really comfortable and goodbye leg rest. So now the steering wheel's out of the way. I can just sit back and relax and let the car charge. Again, it's going to take 24 minutes to get from 10 to 80% on a level 3 350 kilowatt charger. Great. And when I'm done doing that, I'm just going to reach down here, hit that button, the front of the button actually, and it's going to bring me back into the driving position where I had the memory saved for that. Now to that back seat. Now we find ourselves in the second row. I will note I feel a little bit high up. There is no height adjustability that I know of in this rear seat. However, you can of course tilt the back as much as you want, and you can slide the seats forward as far as that far, and then you can slide all the way back for extra legroom. You'll notice how wide this second door is. There is a ton of room in the back seat of the EV9, so it's really comfortable for those second row passengers. We do have dual zone HVAC control. Actually, it's tri-zone. You've got front driver, front passenger, and then second row controls here. And you can control all of the HVAC from here. The rear passengers can themselves, or of course you can override it from the front. Second row passengers also have USB-C ports, and they're in the backs of the seats here. I'm 5'9", this seating is in the middle, and I'm just shocked at how much room there is back here for these second row passengers. You've got these adjustable armrests where you can go all the way down and sort of ratchet it up to wherever you want it to be. And then on the sides, you do have these adjustable, I don't know if you can see it from your angle, but you've got window shades, which are manual, but you can hook them at the top and have some privacy and keep the burning sun off of you. In this trim, you've also got heated and cooled second row seats, which is something you don't see. You'll see heated second row seats, but cooled second row seats, not that often. And you'll notice these dark metallic speaker grills. That's because this Land trim, and of course the GT line, has the Meridian 14 speaker surround audio system, and it is good. It's not the top system I've listen to, but compared to other mainstream automobiles, the sound is pretty darn fantastic. Let's take a look at that third row. Before we do that, to access the third row, something I should point out is that this has electronic seat releases, because of course you saw that back when we did it in the latch, or in the hatch. We released the latch electronically. But if you're up here and you just hit this button, you're going to see that sort of slide back, and now you can access the third row. Back here in the third row, if I slide over here to the right-hand side, you can see, now I think this seat is all the way back, but I gotta kind of spread my legs to get back in here. I can still fit, and if the person in front of me were nice, because there's gonna be someone in front of me, because why else would I be sitting in the third row, they could simply slide this seat up. I'm gonna do it for them now because they're not listening to me, because they're not there. And give myself a little more knee room. This seat will actually slide up further. I just slid it up one click. Nicely, if you're a third row passenger in the EV9, you've got USB-C ports on both sides, and they're backlit so that you can actually identify them and find them in the dark. And then of course you've got speakers here for the third row and that Meridian sound system. You've got dual cup holders on each side, so you can have multiple drinks. You have map lighting up above. One can tilt the seat forward and backward. There's a little strap down here, and I can just pull that. And if I want to lean back and I don't have any cargo back there, I can do that. Also, it's hot out. I have the air on. I have the second row air on, and we have air vents coming out here, and it's not warm by the time the air gets to the back. The air conditioning's on, and I've got a nice cool breeze. I don't feel claustrophobic because I have a good sized window here. I've got the second sort of moonroof, the fixed moonroof, and then I've got air ventilation here, so it's fairly comfortable. I don't know how long I'd want to be back here as an adult, but it is just fine, and I think that any kid would, once they're plugged in, they're good. They're not going to complain. Let's take the EV9 for a drive and see how it is out on the road. Welcome to the drive portion of the EV9. Before we set off, I thought I would try the infotainment system and see if it could navigate us somewhere. So let's give this a shot. Navigate to the White House. And I've got a screen that said services are unavailable in this area. I'm not sure why. I have full connection via the cellular built into the car, so we'll forget that for now, and we're just going to go for a drive. So we will not use the navigation. Again, I have to hit the power button down here. The car is already on, so I'm going to twist that gear selector, and we're going to head off. There's a little bit of pedestrian warning sound that I can hear. I don't know if you can hear it. It's so quiet in here worrying about, but we're just gonna head off. I'm going to look in the rearview mirror. I'm gonna actually flip the little thing up, make sure I didn't leave anything behind us. You never know when filming where you might leave a tripod or a backpack somewhere. So we look to be good, and we're just gonna head off down the road. Again, it is so quiet in here. Not much to it. You can hear the clicking of me hitting the accelerator and the brake, and that's about it. So we're gonna head off down the road, and one of the things that I didn't mention when I was walking around the car is that I'm kind of a little worried about, okay, this might be your first EV and it's for the family, it may be your only car. Kia's got your back with a 5-year, 60,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty. And then the battery and powertrain has a 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty. As far as safety and crash testing, the EV9 has not been crash tested by IIHS, which is Institute Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, nor has it been crash tested yet by NHTSA. However, I can tell you that their sister vehicle, I mean, it's not the same platform or anything, but the Telluride, Kia's other 3-row SUV, which is wildly popular, does receive 5 stars overall safety rating from NHTSA and a top safety pick plus from IIHS. We're going over the worst pavement ever, and you can hear, and this car is fully unloaded, so there's not a lot. The only weight is from its battery and myself, but it's doing just fine and really handles the bumps well, and that's only going to get better as you fill up the vehicle with passengers and cargo. So it's really easy to drive. It feels smaller when you're driving it because you know, when you hit the accelerator, it's an EV, it just goes. And then you can adjust the regen from one pedal driving to level 3, level 2, or level 1, or no regen at all, which is really nice. And it will just take off like a rocket when you hit the accelerator, but you can control that regen. So if you're one who loves one pedal driving, you can have that. If you're someone who doesn't like when you take off the accelerator or pull your foot off the accelerator, that it comes to a sudden stop, you can actually, you can't be accelerating or braking when you change this, but the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, you can change that regen. Now I'm at level 0, and it's just like driving an internal combustion car in that you let off the accelerator and it just glides. Now it will regenerate some energy when you hit the brake. That's actually going to put, you can see on the display, charge back into the battery and give you some regen. But it's actually the way I prefer to drive, and I love that Kia gives you that choice of, hey, I don't want this, you know, heavy regen. I want to choose when I regenerate energy back into the battery, and I like to coast. Coasting is, you know, safe. It just uses the energy, the momentum of the car to keep going. And pro tip, you might make your passengers and yourself a little less nauseous on a road trip if you dial back the regen on the car. It just makes for a more pleasant, more natural experience. And then being a family vehicle, being a Kia, it has the DriveWise suite of safety features that will basically do everything you could ever imagine. Especially in these top trims, you get like even more sort of safety features built into the car. And I'm gonna head away from this. Now I'm just gonna hit the accelerator here, and I'm in a neighborhood, but I got to that speed limit, which I did not exceed, very rapidly and with no noise. So it's a family hauler that really hauls without bringing tons of obnoxious attention to itself, without disturbing your neighbors. Just, you know, all the features of an EV, but you can bring along so many people. Now, I said this is a 7-passenger vehicle. Maybe I didn't. This is a 6-passenger vehicle because it has these rear captain's chairs. You can have this in a 7-passenger configuration in the lower trims. So those light and wind trims are available in a 7-passenger configuration. One other thing to note about this is that it is priced higher, even starting at that $59,000, than a Telluride. However, it is so well equipped. You know, the Telluride comes in at a lower base price, but because this uses a quarter of the energy to travel, you're going to save over $8,000 in fuel costs in just 5 years. So you keep the car for 10 years, you're going to save $16,000. Let's hop out of the car, and we're going to go back to where we started, and I'm going to talk about my fabulous favorites and not so favorites about the EV9. And now it's time for my fabulous favorites and not so favorites. Fabulous favorite number 1, this is the first mainstream 3-row SUV, and it's really good. It's vault-like quiet on the inside. Now, keep in mind these higher trims have more sort of sound deadening glass, you know, toward the back of the car, but all EV9 trims should be extremely quiet, not just because they're electric, but because they're really well engineered. So you're getting a luxury-like feel on the inside. You may not have all the wood trim or simulated wood trim or the interior appointments visually that a luxury car would have, but you're getting a luxury car experience and the quietness and the smoothness and the lack of harshness that you would get in traditionally a plus $100,000 car. This starts at $59,000. Second fabulous favorite, of course, we've got glass on the roof, and the glass opens. You've got that moonroof that opens over the driver and passenger, and then you have that fixed glass portion for the second and almost third rows that's a larger sort of rectangular, almost square piece of glass in the rear. Third fabulous favorite, you've got 280 miles of range in this dual motor version, this all-wheel drive version, but you're going to do better in city driving, and they're underestimating, I believe, in my driving experience, what the car will get as far as range. So they're not over-promising and under-delivering, they're actually kind of under-promising and over-delivering here, which is really nice. And if you want that EPA 300 plus miles of range, you can go with the rear-wheel drive version of the long range, so that light, long-range rear-wheel drive version. And you'll get 300 plus EPA estimated miles of range, and you'll do still better in city driving. And another fabulous favorite, the design. It's clean, it's a clean sheet design. There was never an EV9 before. And now for my not so favorites. Again, that steering wheel blocks some of the display panel and the touch screen that you would need for the HVAC. Now, it's not really the steering wheel's fault, it's sort of Kia's fault for putting that information behind the steering wheel. Don't put stuff where you can't see it. Another not so fabulous favorite, while I said the design is a fabulous favorite, it's also a not so favorite because it is not going to age probably well in 10 years just because Kia's design language evolved so quickly, which can be a good thing, but also it will sort of freeze it in time. Final not so favorite, putting those haptic buttons sort of embedded in the surface of the dash where I need to rest my hand sometimes to hit buttons on the infotainment screen. Just not ideal because it messes up what you're trying to do and accomplish on the screen. That brings me to the end of this review of the 2024 Kia EV9 Land Long Range All-Wheel Drive in Ivory Silver Matte. Anyhow, thank you for coming on this ride and for walking around the car with me. If you have any questions, please post those in the comments. Before you even do that, please hit that subscribe button. That will allow me to do more videos in the future. And if you liked this video, hit the like button. I look forward to seeing you again. You'll get a notification if you are subscribed when I put out the next video of the next EV or plug-in electric vehicle. Enjoy the drive and have a wonderful day. V2L, and V2L is vehicle to V to L. Load.